Hey guys, welcome to the Gun Shop with me, Johnny. Today we're going to be looking at these knives, talking about hunting knives, and for that we've got a knife maker, Marmajuke Creations. This is Mark, and yeah, let's start with steel.
Steel.
Tell me about steel, because steel's not just stainless or mild.
No, you have a wide variant in steels. There's stainless steels which have a higher level of chromium, and then you've got your carbon steels which have more carbon. Advantage of stainless over carbon, obviously more rust resistant if you abuse knives in the fact that you don't wash them. John, yeah. Carbon steels is a favourite for me. You've got to look after them a little bit, just give them a wipe down when you finish using them. You don't have to go nuts, but it holds an edge better until you get up into the really high-end super steels, which they have created some amazing edge retention in stainless.
Oh, tell me about that. Super steel.
Super steels. Basically, it's a powdered steel, and it's the way it's formed. It's all the components of the steel are in powder form, blown through a furnace where they become molten in one exact proportion. It's quite a complex process and therefore expensive. They're generally a lot harder to heat treat and a lot harder to work with. But the end result is that much better? In my opinion, no, a little bit.
Okay.
You tend to get the bigger companies like Benchmade, Spyderco, the big production factories tend to use them in their folders. Because they can. They've got the technology, they've got all the machinery, all the CNC machines and the grinders to work with it.
Okay. So let's go back to sort of the more basic steels. What can people expect to find steel material wise in knives?
Generally, in a carbon steel, you've got 1085, 1095 are real common ones, and then A1 tool steel, which is what I predominantly use.
And there is obviously differences in the makeup of these steels.
Exactly.
Any preference? Is one better than the other, or are they all just slightly different?
Slightly different. I personally think the O1 is slightly better quality. It's probably one of the more expensive high carbon steels out there. Mm-hmm. Holds an edge amazing. And as long as you look after them, they don't tend to rust. What happens is it patinas, which here's an example of a guy that works for me, everyday knife, never gets cleaned, only ever gets stropped. So this is the original edge on it.
Nice.
And you don't generally have to sharpen high carbon steel unless you do something really silly, like beating it through a boar's head and then regrinding was necessary.
So, alright, so when you say resharpen, you only strop your knives. Let's talk about sharpening before we move on to anything else. How do you sharpen your knives?
On a belt grinder.
Okay, and how often do you resharpen your knives?
I haven't.
So you just strop?
Yeah.
Okay, so stropping, a good knife you should only have to strop?
Yeah, essentially. As long as you strop it regularly, so every time you use it, well, depending what you're doing to be fair, but if you process a deer, for example, all you need to do is drop it. When we was in Italy, this particular knife did 3 wild boar, and I stropped it in about 2 minutes back to shaving sharp.
Yeah. So why do people not just strop their knives then, if that's the case? Or is that just ignorance?
Probably. Until I got into knife making, I knew nothing about it. I should have brought a strop for a demonstration because it is so
We'll do a
simple.
separate how to strop your knife video.
Yeah, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
Takes no effort, and all you're going to do is get that edge better and better every time you do it. You can't. It's one of them things you can't do too much.
Wow. Okay. So what would you say to people who use like home sharpening kits? Are they a no-no to you?
Yeah, I've been there, done it. None of them are really good. If you're gonna get one, the only one I've seen that I really like the look of is the Wicked Edge, and it's 500 to 1,000 quid.
So you're better off just having a 20 quid strop.
Yeah, or making one for a £5 yourself. Mine is a bit of leather stuck to a off-cut ply.
And that does?
It does, and I've only ever had one strop.
Alright, so let's move on. Handle materials. No, hardness.
Hardness, right.
Can it be too hard?
Yes.
People go on, my knife's really hard, like it's a positive thing. Hard versus soft knives, go.
I'd rather have a knife too hard than too soft.
Okay.
But generally, knives are measured in HRC, Rockwell hardness, and an average knife would be between 59 to 61 HRC, and that's pretty good balance. The 61 can be a bit brittle, and what you'll get is edge chipping at that if you abuse it. Everything's all down to how much you abuse them. 59 is probably a good benchmark for a hunting knife.
So no, most sort of cheaper end production knives are generally softer, so they handle a bit more abuse.
Yeah. So they'll be probably 57, 58, and I've seen reports on that of them being down to like 55 HRC, which means you can sharpen them really easy because it's steel soft, but it won't hold the edge.
Yeah. Talk me through handle material. Have you a preference? Is there a preference? I mean, synthetic is obviously the option for anybody doing a significant amount of deer stalking. Deer seeming to dictate.
My preference, I love wood. This is Moppany. That's my personal knife. But
there is no positives and negatives.
There are
either.
No, as long as you use a good quality and look after it. I mean, you've got a high carbon steel blade, so this is oak with G10, red G10 liners. Just wipe the whole blade down with an oily rag, including the handle, and you're going to be good to go.
Stabilised versus non-stabilised wood?
There's some beauty in stabilising. This was a really blonde piece of older root.
Yeah.
And it's got a carbon fibre and glow in the dark pin at the back, and carbon fibre and O1 steel.
Let's take a quick step back. How do you make one of these
knives?
Yeah.
I buy the steel in flat form.
Just a bit of metal.
Just a length of steel.
Yeah. At which point it is soft?
Yes, completely soft. Which
as
makes
soft as metal gets?
Yeah, soft as steel gets. And then I design a knife, make a template for that knife so I can hold it in my hand and make sure it feels right to me, because at the templating point you can scrap it. If it feels rubbish, you put half an hour into it, put it in the bin, start again. Or you can just adjust and tweak things. Then I lay the template on the steel, mark round it, cut that out, then grind it to get your smooth edges all the way round. Depending on the style of knife and the size of knife is whether you put bevels in first, put your grind lines in. For a Scandi, generally in 3mm steel upwards, I'd pre-put my bevels in and leave a mil thickness on the edge, because if it's too thin it will get damaged during heat treat. For something like this one, which is a 2mm steel, I hardened it and then put my bevels in.
Okay. When you so now hardening process, tell us about that. So when you harden, you hardening all the way through the steel, or is it just hardening around the edge, or how does that work? How do you do it?
Well, it's done in a kiln. You bring it up to, with carbon steel it's really easy. You get the steel so hot that it becomes non-magnetic, which is, you do it in low light, it is a real cherry red. It's so easy, you can see it and you know whether it's to temperature or not. I always double check, but I know at the point I'm taking it out of that kiln.
You do enough and there comes a point where you don't need to check quite as regularly.
Yeah, I check every one, because it's 2 seconds, touch on the magnet, into the oil, and then the whole blade will be hardened.
Okay. And then what?
Then that's too hard.
What would happen if you made a knife out of that?
If you drop it, it'll break.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I broke one about a week ago. Really annoying.
So what, just dropped it before tempering it?
Yes. And it just snapped on the floor. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
There you go. So there's a couple of hours I won't get back. Well, probably a bit more than that one. So then you put it into an oven at a much lower temperature to bring the hardness down to a manageable amount. The lower temperature you use to temper it, generally the higher level of hardness you'll get. So the hotter you get it, the more you bring the hardness down. And I tend to shoot for around 59, plus minus sort of 1.
You can go back to the drawing board, I presume, and re-harden once again, put it back in the kiln.
Put it back into the kiln.
Temper.
Then you've got to anneal it again,
yeah.
which is heating it to a lower temperature, holding it for a while, letting it cool. Then that should anneal it, and then re-harden.
Okay, so you're not completely scuffed if you do it wrong in the first instance?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
But, and you're better off going back at that point and getting your hardness right?
Yes.
How do you test hardness?
The best way, the most consistent way, is with a Rockwell tester.
Mm-hmm.
They're a massive bit of kit, weigh about 50 odd kilos, but they're very accurate. The other way is to test with HRC files, and Rockwell tester files, and they come in different grades. So you brush them across the steel. I tend to do the bevel, and if they skate over, it's harder than the file. As soon as the file digs into the steel, you know that the steel is softer than the file.
And that will get you bang on, or get you within 1?
Within like a few. You'll get pretty close.
But you know what you're looking for, I presume.
Yeah.
The process is quite scientific.
As soon as you take it, as soon as you take it out of the ore from hardening, I've always got a file next to me. Test the blade.
And
make sure
it should be super hard.
Yeah. The file should literally just skate straight off the steel. If it digs in at all, straight back in the kiln.
Yeah.
At that point you can re-temper, because the steel is still hot. If you let it cool and temper it, then you've got to
go back to annealing stage.
Go back to annealing, and then from there on.
Okay. That's interesting. That is very interesting, actually. Okay, so now talk me through some of the designs we've got on the table. How have you got to where you've got with your designs? What are they for? What do you sell your knives for mostly?
Depends. These here are like everyday carry knives. So this is one of the guys that works for me, uses it every day. As you can see, it's built up patina. So it started like that, and then it gets to that. And that's just grease and things from your hand in the high carbon steel. So it's a real fine layer of rust, which makes it very hard and makes it more and more rust proof, essentially. Which
a little bit like blacking on a gun.
Exactly, it does exactly the same as blacking or bluing. Just adds a tough layer on top, which then protects the steel and prevents it from rusting so much. Most high carbon steels, you can get that finish if you don't look after them too much. So mine is still quite good, but I wipe mine down with an oily rag.
Yeah. So a little bit of maintenance goes a long way.
Yeah, if you want to keep it looking like that, it's quite easy, just wipe it down. If you don't wipe it down so much.
Mm-hmm. But you can go the other way, and I've certainly had it a few times that I've left a knife in a sheath when it's perhaps dirty and you pull it out and it's pretty far gone.
Yeah, I've done exactly the same with a knife where I left it in a sheath that hadn't dried properly from wet moulding.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because we all make mistakes and we all get home from stalking late or early and have to go to work or have to do family or just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then the next day you forget about it, and soon later it's a fortnight and the are kind of rancid and rotten. But that's part of the fun. This is your personal knife.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I designed that. That was one of the things that inspired me to get into knife making. Was I couldn't find a knife I really liked. I had an idea in my head what I wanted. Started out significantly shorter, so I wanted to be able to get my finger on the tip. So this is a bit long for me, but I needed to make a knife quick to go to Italy because I didn't have any. So I made.
But it's the compromise, isn't it? Too short a blade, and suddenly you can't actually do some of the things that you might want to do with it.
As we was discussing earlier, actually, I have one model of this which is about that long.
Yeah.
It's about 15mm shorter, and just means your finger falls nicely on the tip without your hand getting too close to the blade.
Shape. One knife should be enough, or do you think people should carry more than one? You know what we spoke about in the past, certainly, is that it's almost impossible to find one knife that's brilliant for everything.
It is.
Is it better to just carry two?
Depending what you're doing. I'm leaning towards something like this. So a little EDC, clips on the belt and you don't even notice you're wearing it. You can wear a fairly tight t-shirt and you will not, it doesn't show, so people aren't like, oh God, you've got a knife. If I was hunting, I'd probably go for something like this now, as a little skinning.
Do everything knife.
Do everything kind of knife, and then probably have something larger as well on my belt. Another side carry. This is green stabilised elm bell, and then we have got pearlescent blue glow in the dark illuminite. That's casting resin.
So what you've just bonded the resin to the wood?
Essentially, yeah, under pressure. So
very cool.
In a pressure pot, 4 bar.
It's quite a serious sort of level of pressure, actually,
yeah.
for this sort of thing. And so, as such, you can actually stabilise the wood with that resin, or you stabilise the wood separately?
Wood needs to be stabilised first, and that's the process of. I buy the wood pre-kiln dried.
Yeah.
I then put it in the oven for an additional 24 to 36 hours, depending on
low, I presume.
On 110 degrees. It's got to be over boiling point because essentially you're boiling any moisture out of that wood. You want it at absolutely zero.
And you can remove a lot of weight out of the wood that way?
Not significantly if it's already kiln dried.
Okay.
If it's not kiln dried, it will massively.
Why do you do it? Just to finish it off?
Yeah, to be 100% sure.
Yeah.
That there is no moisture in there, because it will not stabilise properly if moisture's there.
Okay, so.
And then you put it into a vacuum chamber submerged in a stabilising resin. I personally use cactus juice. It's probably the most popular. It's definitely
nothing to do with cactuses, I take it.
Nothing to do with cactuses at all. It's a very
like
good
an
resin.
epoxy 2-backy kind of resin.
Kind of. You mix the whole lot in one. You get, well, I buy it in big gallon or 5 gallon, whatever it is, jugs, and you mix the 2 parts together. And at that point you can add dyes to achieve things like that. And like this, it's got
just goes to show how far that goes into the wood when the wood is indeed now green.
Yeah, because that goes into the cactus juice in big block forms.
Okay, and you pull it out, and it hasn't set yet.
Yeah, so you put it under vacuum. It tends to take. We want to remove all the air from wood at this point, so put it under a vacuum in a vacuum chamber. 4 to 8 hours is what I've found is an average time to stop.
But you can do multiple blocks at the same time, I presume.
Yeah, you can. Depends how big your vacuum chamber is. I can do 2 colours at once, just in smaller pots within my vacuum chamber. Some people do, if you're doing a big batch, you can just use the whole vacuum chamber itself. Because until the cactus juice is put in the oven to 90 degrees, it will not set. And you can.
So you're actually cooking it.
Cook it. Yeah.
Okay. So you shove it into the wood and then you put it in the oven.
Yep.
You've got to have a fairly forgiving wife at this point.
You cannot do it now. It stinks. It is terrible. Okay. It's really bad. The fumes that come off it. So I've got a designated oven in the workshop for it.
Okay. Cool. And then once you take it out, essentially what you have is plasticised wood.
You do.
That's cool. And advantages over wood?
More moisture resistant.
So it's basically plastic. You can dishwash it?
Yeah. Don't actually know.
I dishwash mine.
I should imagine you could.
Or not, but I do dishwash one of mine.
But I'd never dishwash a high carbon steel anyway.
Yeah, but I would.
I know you would. Yeah, it has advantages. The main one for me, I like the aesthetic. And if you're casting in with illuminite, if it's not stabilised, you're going to get bad results. Also, even though you've stabilised it, it shouldn't gain moisture.
Okay.
You'll find.
So you can weigh it over time.
Yeah. The main thing, once it's stabilised, you know if it's stabilised properly, just on weight alone. Mm-hmm. It is triple the weight once it's stabilised, at least I would say.
Wow.
But you can't just then cast it. If you put it to one side, it will gain surface moisture. The moisture will not penetrate, but then you try and cast it with a resin, the moisture will come out and you'll get the cloudiness.
Yeah.
You won't get it clean, because I do like live edge, so this is
which you can
the living edge of the burl
inside the resin.
Yeah,
that's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
That.
Yeah, that's quite cool, and say that on to glow in the dark, which is pretty awesome. Quite like that.
And you can make just about anything, I'll take it. I mean, you got this one down here, which you got a lot of traditional knives, and you got this, which is significantly different. And this is a different material altogether.
Yeah, so that's G10, which is, I believe it's Kevlar or something similar. I know it's fireproof. The material they use in it is layers of resin, and you can probably see in the handle actually, you've got texture. So it's like a very thin cloth material, which I believe to be Kevlar or something of that nature, with resin.
So different to micarta, but not entirely.
Different, but very similar in the process it's made.
Okay.
Yeah, so layers of resin and material, whatever material it is. This experiment.
It's cool.
Just
it's really
come up with it one day.
It's very different.
And the weight, put quite a lot of weight in the handle to offset the blade.
Yeah.
So the blade actually feels really light and agile.
It's a very nimble knife, but it's large. Yeah, it's without a doubt a very large knife.
Yeah.
But very cool.
I normally lose a lot of weight in the handles, with that I added it. It's all about getting the balance in the knife so it feels right in the hand. If the handle's too heavy, it feels off.
It's not a one knife fits all kind of situation. Everyone is different, I take it.
Yeah, it's personal preference.
Not only for looks, but I suppose it's about application as well. That's the hard bit, isn't it? So a first time knife buyer, of which I'm sure there aren't that many, because everyone buys a first knife when they're like 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
First good knife buyer. Is it worth investing in a good knife? Because good knives aren't cheap. Those two things just don't go together.
No. Yes, 100%. It's more the craftsmanship and the effort and things that go into it. You can buy a decent knife from one of the large manufacturers
for 100 quid.
Yeah, 100 quid, which is gonna do the job. If you want something that's just gonna do the job, that's your best bet.
Yeah.
If you want something to enjoy, and that makes you smile every time you get it out. I mean, this knife's been beat to bits. Every time I pick it up, still love it. Makes me smile.
Yeah.
And then you got memories in there. Got a dent in the handle. I could easily remove that. I've left it in there because every time I pick it up, I feel that, and it just brings you back to memories. It becomes part of the whole experience.
It becomes more of an heirloom than just a tool.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I presume most decent knives come with very long-term warranty as well. So you're buying into a care package, a bit of a family sort of thing. Rather
exactly.
Than
as long as you look after it, most knife manufactured, handmade knife people will put 10 years plus.
Are there good and bad knife making people? I take it there are some who are better than not.
Of course.
How does one tell at a glance? Given that you, not being funny, you can't pick that up and go, yeah, that's going to be great steel. And everyone goes, oh yeah, that's sharp, but it doesn't really make a difference till you've done something with it and you find out how it reacts.
Yeah.
What should people be looking for when buying a handmade knife?
They obviously can't test the hardness of the steel. You have to take the maker's word on that. Most custom makers will get the heat treat right.
You'd hope.
Yeah, I'd hope, and I think the majority would. First thing I'd look for, plunge lines, which is this part here. Are they even? They should be. They're not going to be absolutely perfect. These are handmade by eye. The machine ones will be better. Your tip, you want tip geometry to be equal, and if you've got a taper, I'm trying to find one with a taper. There's one with a taper. That is even. Someone's taken the care and effort to make sure that the knife's symmetrical.
So symmetry is a good start.
Means if it's good and symmetrical, same as the handle, hold the handle up, it should be, to the eye, perfectly symmetrical. If you get calipers on it, I'm sure in all
you're
my
going to have a
knives,
couple of mil here and there, aren't you? But it's not.
Until you come to this material, which is laminated G10, and it's all visual. Each layer is exactly the same. So as you can see, that side looks the same as that side, so we can pretty much say that is
identical.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of work to achieve, getting them
by hand again.
All by hand. Yeah. An average knife handle to finish this one, for example, I think was 3 hours.
Start to finish?
In the handle.
Oh, just in the handle? Jesus.
Shaping the handle and polishing it to 2000 grit. To get the finish on the aluminite is...
So the finish is quite a big key as to how much care has been put into it as well. If somebody's not willing to put the extra hours in, perhaps they might not have put the extra care in. Not that that's always a thing, because everyone does more rough and working models.
Yeah. This is a prime example of that. This was one I knocked up in literally 3 hours, start to finish, as an experiment for what then become the production model. Now on the glance they look fairly similar, but when you get real close and into it, the finish on that is nowhere near as
the
good.
bevel on that is significantly cleaner. You still got some grind lines in there.
Yeah.
The handle's nicer on that, but it's very marginal, and I suppose it's one of those things that if you care, then it's probably worth investing in something better, and if you don't, it probably doesn't bother you whatsoever.
I shape that handle fully on the belt grinder, which I never do normally, but it's a prototype.
You just need to see sort of proof of concept, isn't it?
Yeah. And one thing we learned for opening packages, boxes, which I do a lot, slightly thinner blade was an advantage. This one is new, not tested it yet. This is a prototype, but it's finished pretty well. I did properly finish this one because it's mine.
No, it's one of those things, isn't it? You can't really go out and go, I'm a knife maker. This is my knife. It's a minger. You have to have something that's actually quite nice. You got removable handles on that as well.
Yep. Always thought removable handles was a cop out until doing it and realising actually there's a lot of work in it.
Unless you got CNC stuff, I guess.
Unless you got CNC,
which is why the big boys do it, I guess. Cause
because they can, and it's simple. It's easier for them to do that than it is for them to glue.
Yeah.
The other advantage, I suppose, of being removable is you can change the handle at a later date if you wish to do so.
If you wish to do so.
But it's a lot of work in a handmade knife. It isn't like buying a Spyderco and
ordering your scales offline and
just bolting them on.
Yeah, you might as well just have a new knife, right? It's one of those things. Like, why not have a new stock for your gun when you just have a whole new gun with a new stock?
Yeah.
More is better.
But then, if you want a specific piece of wood and you love your gun, I love my Marmaduke Mark 60.
Yeah.
If I found an outstanding bit of wood, I'd be tempted to have it put on my gun.
Yeah, one day. I'm with you. But at the same time, just get another gun, get another action and build around it. I just think more toys is always better, but maybe I'm a bit bent on that one, obviously. Okay, talk to me leather versus Kydex. You have both on the table.
I'm leaning more towards Kydex now. Love leather. Got a leather sheath myself. It's actually a reject one that I grabbed and just chucked my knife in.
It's often the way though, isn't it? That your own gear, or certainly with my guns, they are second rate. I've got that. That'll do. Put that in.
Yep, that's it. That's perfect for me.
Yeah, I'm not as I've approximately I'm not as fussy as clients because I can't afford to be.
Yeah. Leather's great. Bit of maintenance.
Yeah.
You do have to look after it. The advantage of leather, when it gets to this kind of point, well, it's not going to do it now, but the knife will fall out, you can just re-wet mould it. So, and then get it to fit the knife perfectly. Where's another one? So you know you've done it well when it clicks in.
Yeah. And
shouldn't be too hard to remove.
Again, the beauty of my handmade knife is that the maker will be able to redo the sheath for you.
Exactly. If you buy one of my knives and comes with a Kydex sheath and you want a leather sheath, I can make a leather sheath to fit that knife perfectly. And vice versa. I'm considering doing a Kydex one for myself if I ever get around to it.
Yeah, pretty much. And Kydex?
Kydex is a thermoset in plastic, so you heat it up, press it in a mould, between potentially two pieces of foam, leave it in there for half an hour with a knife in between, and pull it out, shape it, drill it. Sounds simple, still a lot of work in it, polish the edges. Just getting into making them having screws as opposed to solid rivets like some of the other examples. I think I'll be doing a lot more of that. Advantage of that, take 2 screws out,
open up, clean it,
spin it on the rivet,
yeah,
clean it inside.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Have you got any concluders about knives? Anything you wish people knew that they don't know? The sort of the regular, everyday ignorance that you may come across, obviously without sort of calling people ignorant, but the common misconceptions with knives that you have come across.
You can't just beat on them.
Can you not?
Well, you can, but you will damage it.
Okay.
If you abuse it, it's not gonna last. It just won't. It's like anything in life. You can go and buy a Ferrari and you can rag it to death and it'd be trash in no time. Same as
just a bit of knife care and maintenance.
Yeah, and all I ever do, oily rag. That is it. Just lightly oiled. As long as you've got a thin coat of oil on there, you can just feel with your fingers. That is good enough. And I tend to do the whole knife, even on the G10s.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt, does it?
No.
And I say that from somebody who regularly doesn't clean his knives. But
back to woods for a minute.
Yeah.
Some woods don't lend themselves well to stabilising. I've had real bad success with this is a wood called Mahogany, which I particularly like, which is on my knife as well. But it's a very oily wood, I found. Doesn't take stabilising very well, destroys the colour of it, bizarrely. It goes much darker and not as pleasant. The grain doesn't stand out as nicely. But with that wood in particular, I found it to be very good just on its own. You don't really have any problems with moisture getting in. So not all woods are better stabilised, but the majority I'd say are. Also oak doesn't stabilise great.
Interesting.
Yeah, but oak bell does.
What do you think that is?
I have no idea.
Grain structure, I presume.
I'm assuming that isn't to the grain structure. Just doesn't come out that well. No.
Doesn't matter, just have it unstabilised.
I love oak on its own. I love it in this form particularly where the grain stands out, and that is just dirty hands.
Yeah.
At the point of making it, just feel it and run it through your fingers. Knife makers always have dirty hands. Just makes the grain pop before you add your finish on.
I do like that. No, I must admit, I've always been into more of my exotic hardwoods. I like them, but there is something pleasantly simple about oak, isn't there?
Yeah,
there is.
Very classic.
Yeah.
And walnut as well. This is a particularly dark piece of walnut.
Well, my problem with walnut is that walnut on a shotgun stock looks so good because you can use such a large lump of it. The grain generally is not tight unless you use bare walnut, which is just not strong. And then you have to stabilise it, at which point
it becomes strong and plastic.
Strong and plastic, yeah.
Which is no bad thing.
It's a toss up, isn't it? It's I don't really know what's good and what's not.
I personally go wood. I do like wood, and from a maker point of view, wood's so much easier to work with.
Then you look at something like that, and that's just a work of art in itself, isn't it? It's almost impossible. I just buy with my eyes all the time. The practicality comes second with a lot of the things that I purchase because I just like to have the things that are nice.
I'm with you there.
Tactile in themselves.
Yeah.
And I'll figure my way around it. Certainly, well, as I like, just with knives, I'm like that. I see something I like, I just need it.
Another one people don't think about buying knives in particularly is, okay, they look at it, looks good. How does it feel in your hand? And this, for example, is quite a full grip. I mean, I've not got massive hands. It's a bit big for me. Your hands are, well, your fingers are a bit longer, but
yeah, feels the hand alright. Does feel the hand alright, but it's a little bit fat. Like you say, it's quite noticeably fatter after playing with that one, which is much nicer in the hand. Thickness for my hand. Again, it's like a suit or a gun. It needs to fit. And you can advise upon that fit. I take it sort of through your experience. You can sort
of course.
Go,
if somebody particularly likes this knife but wanted it a bit thinner, it's not a problem for me to reduce it. You can never stick it back on.
Yeah.
Or make another one exactly the same in any material you like, if they handle, in any dimensions.
What do your knife start at, money-wise?
Retail, 125.
Okay.
This with that quality of sheath, Oh no, I haven't got the reject one up here. No. That one was just a prototype. So for them sort of things there, that is a lot more work.
Yeah.
There's not much difference in work from that to that, believe it or not.
It's all the handle, I would have thought.
Handle, the making of it, cutting it out. The material cost difference, negligible, a few pounds.
So the money that people are paying for these knives is all in the time.
100% in the time.
And the after sales and pre-sales service.
Exactly.
Of course, yeah.
And the fact if they want something specific, you want that design knife with a handle like that.
6 sheaths in all different colours for each day of the week. Apart from Sundays, which isn't knife day.
Yep, you can have that from a custom knife maker, but they're going to be rough 3 to 350. One's on the table. That would be a little bit more.
Guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, Mark, for coming and sort of giving us the lowdown on knives and showing us some of your rather pretty things as well. It's been great to have you in. And if you guys have any questions, please chuck them in the comment section below. Mark and I will contact Mark and get them answered for you. Many thanks for watching. Take care. Goodbye. And we'll see you next time.